According to Merriam-Webster, nationalism is defined as loyalty and devotion to a nation, specifically a sense of national consciousness and exalting one nation above all other nations or supranational groups. Before the arrival of the Spanish, the Philippine archipelago was not a unified nation. The Spanish colonization of the Philippines, lasting over 300 years, introduced the concept of centralized government but was marked by tyranny and cruelty, leading to various local revolts prior to the 1896 Philippine Revolution. The forced labor imposed by the Spanish regime separated Filipino men from their families and a widespread grievances among the population. These abuses by Spanish authorities and friars, and as well as the grievances of Filipinos, helped alight the flame of unity among Filipinos, which ultimately culminated in the 1896 Philippine Revolution.
Good day everyone, my name is Annalisa Academia and we are going to discuss about the RIZAL sources of nationalism. The Philippines to international trade in 19th century brought economic prosperity, enabling middle-class families to afford higher education for their children in Manila and Europe. Filipino students were exposed to enlightenment and liberal ideas such as liberty, religious freedom, free speech, and the right to form associations. Next is the rise of Ilustrados class, composed of wealthy and educated Filipinos like Jose Rizal, Marcelo H. Del Pilar, Graciano Lopez Haina, Pedro Paterno, and Mariano Ponce. Because of their experiences and education abroad, the Ilustrados were exposed to liberal ideas, politics, and changes that were happening throughout the Europe. The ideas that they learned as well as their experiences in the Philippines and in the Europe nurtured in them a desire for liberal and progressive reforms that should be implemented in the Philippines. The opening of the Suez Canal in 1869 accelerated travel between Europe and the Philippines, increasing the exchange of liberal ideas and encouraging more Filipinos to pursue their education abroad. Next is the Spanish Revolution of 1868, which dethroned by the Queen Isabella II and promoted liberalism in Spain, brought a liberal governor, General Carlos Maria de la Torre, to the Philippines from 1869 to 1871. Where he introduced reforms such as press freedom, educational improvements, and the reduction of government abuses. However, De La Torre's leadership was short-lived. In 1870, the monarchy was restored in Spain and Rafael Izquierdo replaced De La Torre as a governor-general in the Philippines. Izquierdo rescinded all the liberal reforms of De La Torre and, ruling with the Iron Fist, introduced harsher laws against Filipinos. Izquierdo's harsh rule would lead to the Cavite Mutiny in 1872. Around 200 Filipino soldiers and workers would mutiny in the Spanish arsenal in the Cavite because of their salaries were subjected to the personal income tax deductions and they were required to do forced labor. Under De La Torre's term, they were exempted from paying tributes like tax and forced labor. Next is the Spanish colonial government used the mutiny as an excuse to execute Fathers Mariano Gomez, Jose Burgos, and Jacinto Zamora Gumborza. The unjust execution of Fathers Gomez, Burgos, and Zamora would have a profound impact on Rizal and his quest for reforms. As a whole, the Cavite Mutiny of 1872 and the execution of Fathers Gomez, Burgos, and Zamora will serve as a turning point in the development of the Philippine nationalism. And that's all for my report, and let's move forward to the next reporter. Thank you.
Now, let's move on to the dismal state of education and nationalistic sentiments. Even before Rizal went to study to Europe, he was already aware that there were things that needed to be changed in order for the lives of Filipino or ordinary Filipinos to improve. An example of this is the kind of education that the Spanish administered here in the Philippines. In school, Rizal had a first-hand experience of racial discrimination and the terrible kind of education the Spanish were teaching to the Filipinos. So, it had said that by the dint of spanking, they compelled us to learn by heart books in a language we did not understand. In this language, they taught us prayers and they made us pray for the whole hours, and we were very sleepy before the images, which must be tired of seeing our tearful faces. Another is then college. Many times the professor, forgetting the lessons, would discourage in our faces and our country, and we, trembling before his impotence, cowardly swallowed our tears and kept silence. Another one is later at the university. Despite the fact that the professor did not understand themselves, I understood better the world I was in. There were privileges for some and laws for others, and certainly not according to merit. Endowed with physical vigor and tears for life, one has dragged himself out of narrow prison when he sees an open field, a vast horizon and distance, when he hears the vibration high above, when he feels that heart throbbing and believes he has the right to cherish beautiful ambition. So that was being said in the book. So Rizal was actually correct in pointing out the dismal state of education in the Philippines under the Spanish regime. For how many years? More than 300 years of the Spanish colonization. So, additionally, the Spanish neglected primary education and did not tolerate any academic freedom. So that time, the Spanish used sign of learning, or the type of learning the Spanish used in their time, is memorization. So the Spanish use it and as a kind of learning materials for the Filipinos. So if you are good, or you have the ability to memorize the content of the books, then you're good. That's why some of the Filipinos, or even most of the Filipinos, really hate the time of the Spanish, or the type of teaching they teach to the Filipinos. So it was correct for the Rizal to point out how the dismal state of education in the Philippines under the Spanish regime. So that's the end of the dismal state of education and nationalistic sentiments.
Good day to each and everyone. Hi, my name is Eugene Al Inoforio, and I'll be discussing the propaganda movement and literary nationalism until the crucial catalyst for the propaganda movement. So, the propaganda movement in the Philippines and Spain lasted from 1872 to 1892. It was a significant period in the nation's struggle for reform and autonomy under Spanish colonial rule. So, this involved demands for key reforms through the expulsion of the friars and the representation of the Philippines to the Spanish Cortes. The propaganda movement also led to the emergence of patriotic literature through the works and writing of its members. So, the patriotic literature is one of the key aspects of the propaganda movement. This literature expressed the nationalistic sentiments and expressing or raising awareness about the injustice faced by Filipinos under Spanish rule. Patriotic literature flourished, and the center of this movement was Rizal, the most prominent writer and member. The movement was primarily led by Filipino expatriates in Europe such as Lauro de Mayoga, Marcelo H. del Pilar, Jose Rizal, and Teodoro Sandico. They exposed the colonial abuses and raised awareness for Filipinos. So they fought not for the immediate independence but for the integration of the Philippines into the Spanish political system as a province with equal rights and privileges for Filipinos. Now let us move on to the next one, which is the crucial catalyst for the propaganda movement. So according to Samuel Cayetano, the movement began around the narrow struggle of the Filipino clergy for justice. So the most noted spokesman, Father Jose Burgos, revealed in his writings the racial discrimination and that Spaniards are responsible for the exploitation of the Filipinos. So the secularization of the parishes developed into Philippinization of the parishes. So it provided a priestly role. It's important to mention to the natives. So the martyrdom of the three priests, Gomborza, gave Philippinism its valuable impetus stated in the introduction of RIZAL's second novel, which is El Filibusterismo. So the unjust execution of the Gomborza highlighted the racial discrimination and abuses of power that the Spanish colonial government was perpetrating. So their martyrdom sparked a sense of Philippinism that the belief that Filipinos should take pride in their national identity and seek justice and equality. So it helped and strengthened to resolve the propaganda movement and help Filipino intellectuals to push for reforms and justice, eventually laying the groundwork for the later revolutionary movement. So to conclude everything, the propaganda movement was an instrument for fostering literary nationalism in the Philippines with writers using their works and highlight the oppressive conditions under Spanish colonial rule and inspire a sense of national pride and identity among Filipinos. So through their writings and activism, the members of the propaganda movement set the stage for eventual rise of Filipino nationalism and the fight for independence from Spanish rule. So that would be all for my part. I will give the moment to the next reporter. Thank you.
Now let's move on what makes Rizal a hero. First of all, Rizal played an important role in nation building in the Philippines through his works during the second half of the 19th century. Rizal was both intellectual and moral leader. He had the intellect, leadership qualities, and moral responsibility that allowed him to understand the issues or problems that Filipinos were facing, as well as how to solve those issues or problems. He was able to write about the plight of the Filipinos under the colonizers and called for reforms. His works opened the eyes of his fellow Filipinos, gave them a sense of identity and self-respect, and allowed them to see a future in which they can be free. Next is Rizal inspired the revolutionary movement. Revolutionaries like Andres Bonifacio used Rizal's writing as an inspiration and basis for fighting for independence. In his works, Rizal always emphasized the dignity, worth, and freedom of a person. And lastly, he put his love for his country first before his personal welfare and happiness. Jose Rizal's heroism rests on his intellectual and moral leadership. He used his writing to expose colonial injustices, inspire national identity, and advocate for peaceful reform in the Philippines. While he championed peaceful change, his work also fueled the revolutionary movement's fight for independence, showcasing his profound and selfless dedication to his country. Now let's talk about the concept of bayani. As a concept and word, bayani has three applications in the Philippine society. First is bayani as a person, second is kabayanihan as a heroic act, and third is bayani as a heroic group, community, or nation. A bayani's core value is knowing and recognizing that there is something greater than the interest and welfare of an individual, such as those of a community, nation, and even of humanity. A bayani should be able to meet the different challenges in daily life and critical historic moments. He or she must have the following qualities: courage, determination, diligence, enthusiasm, humility, and the ability to inspire others. Moreover, according to Dr. Esteban D. Ocampo, a hero is a prominent or central personage taking an admirable part in any remarkable action or event, a person of distinguished valor or enterprise in danger, or fortitude in suffering, and a man honored after death by public worship because of exceptional service to mankind. Looking at the life and works of Rizal, there is no question that Rizal is indeed a bayani or hero. The spirit of bayani lives on. Modern-day bayanis are extraordinary individuals in various fields, exemplifying heroism, selflessness, and positive impact. They inspire others and shape a brighter future for society through healthcare, humanitarian aid, social activism, education, community leadership, innovation, and volunteering.
Good afternoon everyone, or good morning or good night to what time that you watch in this video. And now I will talk about Executive Order number 75, 2019. This executive order by President Rodrigo Duterte was significant in formalizing the process recognizing national heroes. Here are the details. The first one is the lead agency. The National Historical Commission of the Philippines, also known as the NHCP, was tasked to take lead in identifying and evaluating potential national heroes. Number 2 is the criteria for recognition. The NHCP uses strict criteria such as contributions to the country, independence, nationalism, and social impact. Potential heroes should embody the ideals of Filipino identity, patriotism, and sacrifice. The third one is the educational role. Agencies like the Department of Education, also known as DepEd, and the Commission on Higher Education, also known as CHED, are mandated to incorporate the contributions of these heroes into the school curriculum. Last but not least, number 4, the cultural significance, encourages that government and non-government institutions in the honor by the heroes by naming infrastructures like schools, roads, and bridges after them and celebrating them through various events. The impact of this order, where the Philippines recognizes many heroes informally. EO 75 provides a mechanism to officially declare them as national heroes. However, it is still a recommendation based on process and Congress has the power to formally legitimate hero declarations. Philippine heroes. The Philippines currently recognizes several individuals as heroes, though only Rizal is officially titled the national hero through public recognition rather than formal declaration. First of the heroes is of course Jose Rizal, also known his writings like Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo, awakening Filipino nationalism during the Spanish colonial era. His legacy executed on December 30, 1896, which is commemorated as Rizal Day. His peaceful advocacy for reforms is celebrated globally. The second is Andres Bonifacio, also known for the founding the Katipunan, a revolutionary society that fought for independence against Spain. His legacy is called the father of the Philippine Revolution. His bold leadership and inspired countless revolutions. Number 3 is Emilio Aguinaldo, also known for proclaiming Philippine independence on June 12, 1898, and serving as the first president of the Philippines. His controversy, his role in Bonifacio's trial and execution has been debated in Philippine history. Apolinario Mabini is the fourth one, also known for his intellect and political writings, earning him the title Brains of the Revolution. His legacy advocated for democratic governments and independence. The fifth one is Melchora Aquino, also known as Tandang Sora. She is known for supporting the Katipunan revolutionaries by providing food, shelter, and medical care. Her legacy reverted as the mother of the Katipunan. The sixth one is Lapu-Lapu, also known for defeating Ferdinand Magellan in the Battle of Mactan in 1521. His legacy hailed as the first Filipino hero for resisting foreign invaders. The seventh one is the Gabriela Silang, also known for the leading an anti-Spanish revolt in Ilocos after her husband Diego Silang was killed. Her legacy represents the courage and women's empowerment, the unresolved questions on national heroes. Despite the process established by EO 75, there is still no legislative declaration for some heroes, aka Rizal, Bonifacio, and Lapu-Lapu. The debate often revolves around the following: specific criteria for heroism, balancing historical achievements with controversies, and formalization of certain figures as national heroes. That is all. Thank you.
In the 19th century, the opening of the Philippines to international trade significantly benefited middle-class families, enabling them to send their children to prestigious educational institutions in Manila and Europe. The Cavite Mutiny of 1872 and the subsequent execution of Fathers Gomez, Burgos, and Zamora serves as a turning point of Philippine nationalism. Before studying in Europe, Jose Rizal recognized the need for reforms, particularly in the education system imposed by the Spanish. Prioritizing his love for the country over personal happiness, Rizal dedicated himself to advocating for the welfare of his fellow Filipinos. He aimed for peaceful reforms and played a crucial role in fostering national consciousness among Filipinos. Historian Dr. Esteban D. Ocampo defines a hero as a prominent or central personage taking an admirable part in any remarkable action or event, a person of distinguished valor. This characterization underscores Rizal's crucial role in the movement for change and his lasting impact on Philippine history.